From Tally to Cali,
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up! Wake up!
Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill.
One more corner pocket.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hajavandi.
And Corey Clark.
Like my brother Mo.
Wake up! What is up, everybody? It's Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. Coming up on today's show, practice observations. Jon Blau from the Post and Courier breaks down the Clemson game, and maybe us too start making predictions on how this game can shake out. Wake Up Warchant, presented by the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. That's in Tallahassee, Florida, 2475 Appalachia Parkway. On the internet, you can find them at cptallybar.com. You can always hit the QR code on your screen. It takes you right to the website. Monday through Friday, lunch specials from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. for only $8.99. On Wednesdays, they just get it figured out for you. Like, here's 5 chicken wings and French fries. Boom, $8.99 from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. Go check it out. Have your lunch there. Check out the football games. If you're not going to be joining all of us there in Death Valley, go watch the game. Be on that security footage that we'll use to create a really cool video after the big win. Get involved, everybody. Meet a friend. Bring a friend. Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, Tallahassee, Florida. Warchant.com, your ultimate Seminole sports source. Big game weekend promo. Half off an entire annual membership. So 50% off a year membership at Warchant.com. If you're a new subscriber, head over, sign up. Get involved in that one as well. You would have been able to hang out in the Ask Me Anything thing that we had the other night with Michael Langston, some of the recruiting guys, Tom Lang. I think Ben Spicer was driving the whole thing. Ben Spicer, virtuoso behind the ones and twos. Was he the brainchild behind the coach speak thing that you guys do now on headlines, or the headlines team does?
No, that was Ira that came up with the idea, but he's the one, like you said, that drives the ship. He's working he's working behind the scenes. Well, he's actually on it too, presenting the clips and everything. So yeah, he does a good job. Big part of Warchant.
Yeah, so check it out. Stay connected and all that sort of stuff. Corey, how are you? I didn't even ask how you were. I brought you in the show without even asking how you are. I just trust that you're doing well these days because you're covering the number 3 football team in the country.
I am doing well. Just got done with a pretty tough workout. Feeling good about that. Got all those endorphins released.
Nice.
And just riding high, buddy. Riding high, counting down the hours until Death Valley, high noon.
Okay. I was not riding high after practice, but then I spoke to Jon Blau from the Post and Courier. He'll be at the end of the show. And made me feel a little bit better about this matchup. No need to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Florida State had a bad game. I'll need to move on past that. I had a little concern about maybe Clemson coming in really confident, like kind of maybe discovering something they didn't know they had in these last 2 wins. But it's like, yeah, man, they were trailing against Charleston Southern, and it was FAU. And Casey Thompson, bless his heart, man, just, was a turnover machine in Nebraska.
Yeah, he's horrible.
Threw a pick 6, so let's not get carried away. Also, apparently some health concerns on their offensive line, namely like a left tackle. They're shuffling 2 guys, Colin Sadler and Tristan Lee, so Jared Verse, go eat. Maybe we'll talk about that a little bit later, some of the comments he made. But I'll be honest, Corey, I did not like the way they practiced on Tuesday. Mike Norvell said that he thought they had a good work day. I did not. I did not see like a level of strain that I wanted to. I didn't see, player-led moments. I saw a lot of coaches with a lot of salty language outside their normal kind of disposition, trying to get guys fired up, trying to get guys ready, which I'm like, do we want to do that right now? Like, that feels like, we're kind of rocking the boat a little bit. But tell everybody that I'm wrong and what you thought about practice on Tuesday.
I didn't really have a thought on it. It didn't strike me one way or the other as like a good practice or a bad practice. It seemed to me like a normal practice. I thought Jordan looked fine. Well, the big thing was Jordan looked fine and moved around fine, right?
Yeah.
If we're thinking about what Saturday is going to be, look, now if he wasn't moving around fine or if he was holding his side every time he threw or if he came out, but we couldn't tell you anyway, but he didn't. So he looked good. He looked normal to me. And that's a very big positive is that old J-Trav looked normal. Everything else, man, I think, it's just so hard for people like us to judge a lot of times the quality of a practice because it did seem like it was a lot of install. And it was, so that's more of like teaching and not like, hey, good on good, one-on-one, go beat your man, go be mean. And like you're learning.
Yeah.
So maybe today's practice will be more kind of tone setting. But also, like, look, man, I thought they practiced pretty good last week. I thought they practiced fine. And then what happened on Saturday happened. So, we'll see. We'll see how it goes, buddy. But I wasn't alarmed or dismayed by anything I saw on Tuesday.
Two things that happened last week. One that I glossed over because, it kind of is what it is. I didn't want to make a big deal out of it because I didn't think it was a big deal, and it probably isn't. I don't know if it's a causation, correlation, however you want to frame it. But, man, there was moments where when they break up into, period 22 or 23 where they go their last scout look of the day where it's, the number one defense going up against mostly walk-ons and it's a number one offense going up against mostly walk-ons on defense. Scout team, if you will, everybody.
Yeah.
The scout team defense surrendered, two big throws downfield. And I was just like, whatever. I mean, it wasn't like the quarterback had all sorts of time and threw a beautifully placed ball. It was just kind of every single time when it comes to the first team defense going up the scout look offense, they eat that offensive line alive, which they should. And the quarterback just kind of flings it out there and heaves some prayers out. But, man, the receivers made catches, contested catches. And I was like, oh, good for them. Good for them to, show some fight in practice. And it wasn't them running free on, with 7 seconds in the pocket. So it didn't happen that way in Boston College. But, I was like, huh. So as I was getting ready to walk out of practice on Tuesday to go set up my trap, I'm like, I'm going to watch the first few minutes of the scout look to see if the defense prevents any big plays. And thankfully they did. So maybe we got some of that buttoned up. But
I think you misspoke at the beginning of that. You said the scout team defense.
Sorry.
Yeah, you meant the scout team offense against the starters on defense.
Correct. The scout look. Yeah, sorry. So thank you for clarifying.
Yeah, no, they usually dominate, which they're supposed to, but there have been occasionally. I remember Duffy hitting Goldie maybe.
Yeah.
So, and that's also, we should point out, it's not all walk-ons. They have freshmen that aren't going to really play much this year. Or quarterbacks, I guess, that aren't going to play much this year. They do. It's not all walk-ons. They are getting scholarship players, and that's good for them. Goldie Lawrence can run, man. That's not just a 4.9 40 kid that's easy to cover. I mean, you got to run with them. So that is the beauty of a program when you're starting to rebuild it to this shape, is that the scout team defense occasionally can get the starting defense, if they're not on their P's and Q's, can get run by.
Yeah. Because
they're playing real guys now. They even got the ninth guy on the ninth receiver on this team is probably on the scout team. Yeah. Well, he would have been the fourth best receiver 2 years ago. So that I think that does help, right? That does give them looks. And to your point, it would bother you a lot more if they're giving up just wide open stuff.
Right.
But they don't. But again, they're also not playing Clemson's starting offense. They're playing, like you said, if they're not walk-ons, they're mostly freshmen. And it's, but yes, that's that. I'm trying to think, Aslan, do you remember a time this year through 3 games where a cornerback just got absolutely dusted?
No, I mean,
other than the last play against LSU?
Yeah, other than Quindarius Jones, which, by the way, I just showed myself there. He was in coverage on Goldie Lawrence, and the throw wasn't great, and Goldie probably would have been able to get to it ahead of him if the throw was a little bit better. But they both go to the ground, and then Quindarius pops up and runs his finger across his face mask, sniffing his finger, don't bring that around me. And I'm just like, come on. I guess maybe some confidence out of him is good.
Yeah.
I didn't like it particularly, but, yeah, that's the only play I can think of because all the Boston College stuff, that felt like safeties not being there when other guys were expecting the safeties to be there, and just 6 seconds of coverage, which is really tough to ask.
And I do think Clemson, I think they will defend Clemson differently, and I think Clemson will throw it up a lot. I do think they'll take some shots, and the corners so far have held up really well. It's the middle of the field that's been the issue, or not even the middle of the field. It's linebackers and safeties. And it's not like they've been too unathletic or just not talented enough. They just are not there. They're not getting beat. They're not getting shaken. They're just not there. If they can just be there this week, if they can just be where they're supposed to be, you really like their chances, because I do think these corners are good. I mean, I could be wrong, knock on wood. Well, I'm not wrong. Renato Green's good.
Yes.
I think Azarie is turning into a real player. And Fintrell's been good.
Greedy's been good too, I think.
Yeah, right. And Jarian.
Yep.
This is a good collection of cornerbacks.
Yep.
It's just a matter of, making sure they're all on the same page so you're not giving up such wide open passes in the middle of the field.
The one play, as I like to dub it, where they pretty much the last play before they usually either break for special teams or go back inside the IPF, where they do a 4th and goal from a certain yardage line inside like the 5 usually. I joked about it, Corey, so you can go ahead and poke holes in front of the nation now or the world, since we're being listened to all across this globe. But, another thing, listen, last week, Tuesday and Wednesday, when they went to that particular play, that particular part of practice, the offense did not score. And they didn't score again on Tuesday, so they better get right on Wednesday. That will affect my ultimate game prediction. Wasn't a bad look, but it just wasn't. Man, what I saw that night, Corey and Doak, that last walkthrough, that last practice that we saw in Doak Campbell before the LSU game, I'm like, that's who they are. That's who they're mostly always going to be. So I keep judging them based on that, because that night looked like two extremely elite offenses and defenses just battling all night long. And I'm like, this is going to be amazing. So I'm judging everything against that. That play just did not seem particularly like a great competed, drawn-up, executed play. That's all. But Wednesday can all change.
And what was my point to you?
They did well in the red zone, the offense.
Yeah. So the one play from the 5 or whatever didn't seem to affect them. It was all the 3rd and 3s and 3rd and 5s that were the issue in that game. Their third down offense has not been good, but the offense as a whole has been great. We're so look, the last 4 drives happened of the Boston College game, but I feel like that's so much tainting our view of what this offense has been. Right. Like, again, go ask LSU if Florida State has a pretty good offense. Yeah. Like they couldn't get Florida State scored their last 6 possessions. 5 touchdowns and a field goal against LSU. And then ask Southern Miss, who, again, lost to Tulane but gave up 21 points. And they had, Florida State, even though we didn't even think the offense played well, put up 60 points on them. So in Boston College, for the first 6 drives, gave up 5 scores. It's just those last 4 drives are kind of lingering. Like if you flipped it, in the first 4 drives you did nothing, and then the last 6 drives you scored 31 points. I feel like you'd feel like maybe Georgia fans feel this week.
But that matters.
I know it's not what
man.
happened.
Yeah.
It felt more like a meltdown. But, Georgia scored 3 points and a half at home against South Carolina.
And then when it came time to putting their foot down, they put their foot down. They kept it there.
Yeah, but wouldn't you say this team has shown a penchant for doing that?
Yeah, but then they let their foot up. I mean,
no, I know, but I guess, look, man, I do think that was just an anomaly. I think this team is the LSU game. I mean, the LSU game happened, right? And the Southern Miss game happened, and they're on a 9-game winning streak. Like, this team knows how to win. Of those 9 wins, 6 have been absolute rumps, and then there have been 3 one-possession wins. So they've shown in these 9 wins they can win close, they can win with defense, they can win with offense, and they can blow teams the F out. Now, it's just sitting with us because this was the worst game of the 9. Was the one they just won, clearly. But even in that game, they had a 28-0 run. So they can be dominant. I think this offense is, like you say, that night in Doak. Look, we think the defense can be good. And I know good is subjective, but good. Guys, look good. Top 25-ish. Yeah. Good. Top 20-ish. Good. This offense can be the best offense in the country. It might not score the most points because it doesn't play at the pace that other offenses play at. But it can be the best offense in the country. And until the last 4 drives on Saturday, it probably was. Again, the last 20 possessions, they had scored 17 times and 14 touchdowns. That's an incredible percentage against real teams. Yeah. So the point being, I think that this offense has the chance, with Keon, Jaheim, Johnny, Trey Benson get going, Jordan Travis is Jordan Travis, and then you've got all these. As good as I think this offense has been, it's like, where's Destin Hill? Right. Where's Winston Wright? Let's see what Rodney Hill can do. Like, they still got more weapons to utilize. which I think should get you excited.
Yeah.
Right? But
yeah.
what a test this is going to be for them. Because it's always harder to score on the road. We get that. We understand that. But what a neat test it is for this offense, who I think is one of the best offenses in the country, to go on the road in that environment after a bad showing in the second half and kind of reestablish itself as one of the best units in the United States, which I think it is.
No, they need to, man. I don't think that's being rude or irrational.
Clearly, I agree with you.
It just, you feel like, I'm not looking back at those games last year, but, I mean, it's valid what you bring up, but it just, that if you play the way you played against Boston College, which you're obviously capable of, unfortunately, now. Like, if you play like that against a team like Clemson on the road, like, it's not going to end nicely. But, again, we're hoping that they've learned those lessons. They'll recapture who they were, which is the way they played against LSU, because I don't think LSU was an anomaly. I don't think that was some sort of smoke and mirrors weird. I mean, Brian Kelly was hurt, man. He was crushed. Like, his team got humiliated and pounded because that's how great Florida State played. So just it's all about that. And I mentioned in the interview that we'll play later on too, man. Like if that was week 1. Right? Like if the Boston College game was week 1 and then they played Southern Miss week 2 and they're coming off the LSU game, or vice versa where it was, maybe Clemson opening up with Charleston Southern FAU, but then they lose the way they did against Duke. It's just everything, the way everything's blended together. Florida State, not having their best showing going into this game. Clemson having their best showing going to this game. Just gives you a little bit more trepidation. But ultimately, I reside on your side of this fence here where I still do think Florida State, I know Florida State's more talented. I think Florida State wins because of that.
Yeah, and wouldn't you be surprised? I mean, not stunned beyond belief, but wouldn't you be surprised if they played mediocre to bad 2 games in a row? That would just surprise me.
Yeah, but then that'd be problematic, though. I think
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I just think that, look, man, they might only score, I say only, if they score 31 points on Clemson, that's a good showing, man. Clemson doesn't give up points like that. And you can look at Duke and say Duke had 28. I think Duke had 7 in the fourth quarter or 10 or something. Well, and most of that was because of the defense.
Yeah, the turnovers. I mean, Clemson was turning the ball over.
And they have apparently a first-round quarterback, and their offense didn't do much at all against Clemson for a large swath of that game. Yeah. Clemson's got a good defense. And if you can score 31 on them, it does not mean the offense is struggling. Yeah. It means that Clemson has really good defenders. They're probably coached pretty well. And, it's not always easy to score. But I just think that if they score 31 in Death Valley, I don't think that means the offense has hit this plateau. I just think that the Boston game was weird and that good offenses don't always score 50 points, especially on the road in an environment like that against players like that. That said, I expect them to play well. I don't know what playing well looks like in that environment. Do you know what I mean? Like,
right.
Is that 51-14? Probably not. Yeah. But could they win 31-20? That to me is playing well. 34-23. That's a big win. Those are good score. That's a big time score in an environment like that against a team you haven't beaten in almost a decade. And I would just be surprised. The defense is going to be the defense. It's going to make you. I've come to grips with this. Maybe I'm wrong because it's only 3 games and I should give them more time. They are going to give up some plays that make you throw your hands in the air. That's something they didn't do a lot of last year.
Wave them around like you just don't care, or throw them up in the air?
No, throw them up like in frustration.
Okay.
Like, how does that happen? No. I just think that's going to happen. But
every team does. Every team does. Spencer Rattler
that's what I was
like
saying.
16 out of 18 against Georgia in the first half or whatever.
Correct. And Georgia's a great defense. Yeah. That you were going to give up yards. Clemson's given up yards. But, again, if this defense – as much grief as Adam Fuller got, and rightfully so for the third down nonsense and the easy throws to start the game, they gave up 22 points on the road against a quarterback that got hot. And had a stop when the game was on the line. It made them punt and also got a turnover that led to a score. Like, they did some okay things, and they held them to 22 points. Like, that did happen. What did LSU get, 17 before the last throw?
Sounds about right.
Yeah. I mean, and those are, I think dynamic quarterbacks. I was going to say good offenses. LSU's got a great offense, I think, with some really talented receivers. I don't know about Boston College. You made them look better than they are, which is a problem. But again, point being, if the defense can play like it did on Sunday, as much as we want to wring our hands and hold a team to 22 points, if you can't win a game where we only give up 22 on the road, well, that's on the offense. And the offense, in my opinion, is why they almost lost the game on Saturday. And I just trust with this quarterback and these weapons and this coach, it'll look a lot better than it did at the end of that game, and I expect them to play well. I just would be really surprised if they played poorly for, 4 quarters in a row, 3 quarters in a row. I don't see that happening.
Jon Blau from the Post and Courier coming up, but first, Vitamin Energy is available online at Amazon Prime, Walmart, GNC. Also, if you're in a pinch, you can find it in person at Pilot, Flying J, Circle K's, TA's, Sunoco's, Town Pumps. Shout out Town Pump, Montana. But go to vitaminenergy.com, because what you can't do at Amazon Prime or Circle K is buy one and get one free. So go to vitaminenergy.com, use the promo code WARCHANTBOGO, that's WARCHANT BOGO, and buy an item, get an equal or lesser value item for absolutely free. Corey, I think they've made some new ones. I think we're getting some new SKUs thrown our way. They're in transit. What could they possibly have waiting for us?
I can't wait to see, man. I
mean,
don't know. I can't even fathom.
I can't either. They've boosted our workouts, our focus, our mood, our immune system. But there's a great beyond out there that they're trying to scratch the surface on. They're climbing for it. They're finding that edge. Find your edge. Shake it and take it. VitaminEnergy.com. It is energy with benefits. Vitamins different in all these potions. I shouldn't call them potions. Different varieties. All there for your liking and choosing. Again, VitaminEnergy.com. Promo code is WARCHANTBOGO. Jon Blau coming up right after this. All right, as we said, trying to get a little bit more insight into the Clemson Tigers. So we turn to our friend Jon Blau over in Charleston, South Carolina with the Post and Courier. John, thanks for coming and hanging out here, man. I know you just came back from Dabo's press conference. What was the soup du jour from old coach? Apparently some kicking woes that he's trying to get remedied in a very unorthodox fashion, it sounds like.
Yeah, they just got a former walk-on kicker, Jonathan Whites, who was not on the roster this year, who was actually, for the previous 4 years, BT Potter's backup. Robert Gunn, the third, the redshirt freshman, has only made 1 of 4 kicks on the year, missed an extra point. So they brought Jonathan Whites back, who was studying, I think, financial management, getting a master's degree virtually in Charleston. So they I think Dabo literally called him on Sunday and asked him if he'd like to, come and maybe possibly kick against the Noles on Saturday. And then Jonathan Whites, basically, who hasn't kicked a football, I think, since last April, went out, kicked a few, see if his leg was still working, drove back to Clemson, has made 7 of 8 field goals in practice. Okay. I think on Monday he did. And now he's the guy who's going to be starting a kicker for Clemson. So, yeah, a lot of very unusual things happening here when it comes to special teams.
What a time to be alive. Just all sorts of different kinds of flavors of free agency. So tip of the cap to Dabo for trying to get these things fixed. John, if this game would have been played 2 weeks ago, I don't know what the line would have looked like. I would have felt much more optimistic than I do now, especially after the way I saw Florida State practice on Tuesday. I did not see the sort of crispness, the urgency, the overall execution at a high level that we saw to them leading into that LSU game. And I'm sure Clemson fans did not feel all that great coming off that loss in Durham against Duke. But these 2 games, obviously Charleston Southern, FAU, not Power 5, top of the food chain, ACC caliber. But has it given a new sort of confidence to this team, or are they just chomping at the bit to get at FSU and prove who they really are?
Yeah, I think obviously you mentioned that Duke game filled with turnovers. Just a ton of possessions where they're inside the 10-yard line and do not get any points. And you saw a little bit of that again in the Charleston Southern game. The first half, they actually trailed Charleston Southern 14-7 for a period of time because Cade Klubnik, the quarterback, fumbles a snap, sets Charleston Southern up at the 1-yard line for a touchdown run. And then Cade Klubnik was trying to throw a ball away and it doesn't go out of bounds and it's a pick 6. So 14-7, you're behind. But then they end up routing them 66-17. And then against Florida Atlantic, you saw Klubnik and the offense continue to get more of a rhythm. Klubnik seemed more comfortable. The Florida Atlantic game, like you said, a week ago, I still think Clemson fans might have been a little worried about going into this Florida State game because of some of the mistakes that Klubnik and the offense were making against Charleston Southern. But the Florida Atlantic game was pretty crisp. Up 34-0 at halftime. Klubnik was in rhythm, finding his guys, short, intermediate, deep. Even made an audible for a touchdown throw, adjusted a route that was supposed to be a fade to a nice post to their freshman slot wide receiver, Tyler Brown. They did slow down a little bit in that third quarter offensively, but again, 48-14, very crisp, very clean, did not turn the ball over like they did in the Duke and Charleston Southern games. So I think Clemson, is feeling a lot better about things coming into Florida State, but obviously different level of play in terms of an ACC opponent and an ACC opponent of the caliber of Florida State. So, a lot more confident, but still a lot of questions as we go into this game from the Clemson perspective.
Would one of those questions maybe be offensive playmakers outside, Shipley here and the wide receivers? Because I know watching the Duke game and hearing, Tom Luganbill, who was on the sideline, said that, listen, I have not seen any disparity in team speed between Duke and Clemson. And for so long, Clemson's been highlighted by these just ridiculous freaks at wide receiver. And I know Antonio Williams had a strong freshman season. Tyler Brown kind of came out of nowhere and had a really strong game against FAU. Is the passing game, is it still obviously is the brunt of it on Cade Klubnik to figure it out? Or does Clemson maybe not have the horses that one has grown accustomed to seeing them roll out year after year, apparently?
Yeah, as far as wide receiver, that is one of the bigger questions that we're still waiting to be answered. I mean, Bo Collins, the junior, was limited last year because of shoulder issues. Dabo Swinney's pointed to him multiple times and said he's the guy at receiver. They expect a big year from him. I mean, he was a high four-star recruit coming out of high school, played with DJ Uyunglele at St. John Bosco. Is a guy who has pro aspirations and they think can be a number one receiver. Had 137 yards against Charleston Southern, but again, it's Charleston Southern. So you're still kind of waiting to see if he's going to produce week to week. Adam Randall's a sophomore, again, another highly recruited guy. Garrett Riley said in yesterday's press conference that, just getting him to play fast at all times is still kind of his deal, where he's still in progress there. And then also at receiver, Cole Turner was one of the guys who was, if anything, a burner. I mean, a guy with great speed, could really take up the top off of defenses. He's out for the year with some torn muscles in his abductor, in his leg. So, the receiver situation is still figuring out. Tyler Brown, again, I mentioned him earlier. He's been a big boost in the slot, freshman. I think they're excited about him. But, who's going to produce week to week? Right now, it really seems like an offense where they're going to lean. I know some people thought this term is kind of funny, but Garrett Riley's not exactly air raid. He's quote unquote dirt raid because he likes to run the ball a lot. And they do have the offensive line. They do have some of those horses and Will Shipley and Phil Maffa to run the ball. Whether they have the receivers to kind of offset, that's a question. But I do think they lean heavy run when they can. And it'll be interesting to see how it matches up with Florida State's defense.
How do you think Dabo feels about Cade Klubnik right now? Cade seemed all-world coming out of high school, what he did in Austin. And I know he's young, and it's crazy to talk like this for a kid that's going in, I don't know, maybe his fifth start or whatever. But was there expectations that things would look a little bit more crisp, that he would be maybe a little bit more refined and polished, or are these growing pains kind of expected thus far?
Yeah, I mean, the way the coaching staff's talked about it, they would say more expected. Dabo Swinney likes to compare this to 2011. Taj Boyd obviously was a great quarterback for Clemson. He remembers Chad Morris, the offensive coordinator at the time, wanting to quote unquote eat his headset because of some of the mistakes that Taj Boyd was making in his first year as a starting quarterback. And Garrett Riley's a different guy, more of a chill, laid back guy. He's not going to eat his headset, but he's definitely working through some of this stuff with Klubnik. And Dabo Swinney's a proponent of, and he's brought it up a million times, would love there to be preseason games in college football. The Duke game was almost like a preseason game, but obviously it counted because it was the first one. And he thinks some of these mistakes and some of the lack of comfort you've seen from Klubnik is just a sophomore quarterback who did not start a full season, who's kind of getting caught up to the speed of the game. Obviously, we'll see. I mean, if that's the case, it's going to be, again, very interesting to see Klubnik against a defense of this caliber with Florida State, just the athletes that Florida State has. I know they had some struggles last week against Boston College, but it'll be interesting to see Klubnik match up with that. And if he can, stay up to pace with the speed of the game, because again, early in the year, Duke did not seem very comfortable, seemed more comfortable as we've gone along here with Charleston Southern and Florida Atlantic. But again, another huge step up with a team like FSU. So reason to be concerned, but will it actually be a concern at the end of the day on game day? I guess we'll see.
Yeah. There were some comments I think Dabo made about, Garrett Riley and, coordinating the Clemson offense. There's kind of a brand. There's an identity, a culture when it comes to offense at Clemson. And Garrett's just kind of trying to figure out, I guess, maybe his spin on what Dabo wants. Does it ultimately, though, still feel kind of similar to years past, or at least recent history here, where it all kind of falls on Will Shipley and then they'll go from there?
Yeah, I mean, for right now, I think the running game is definitely their strength. I mean, I think they have to set it up with that first, just because they had that experience on the offensive line. I mean, they brought back 4 or 5 starters. Left tackle, obviously an important position. They're replacing that. They're kind of rotating 2 guys there. But yeah, you have 2 experienced running backs in Phil Maffa and Will Shipley. I think it starts there. I think, Dabo Sweeney said after the Duke game that the comment that a lot of people were a little, scratching their heads about was, I'll take this offensive performance every week. And all he was saying was, rushing for 200, passing for 200. I think they had been 58-0 in Clemson's history and Dabo Sweeney's history there at Clemson when they rushed for over 200 and passed for over 200. So I think they like that balance. I think that quote that you're kind of referencing, I guess that Dabo said in a pregame interview with ESPN, I think it's a little misunderstood. I think he was just saying that they work collaboratively. It is very much Garrett Riley's offense. He's always been this way in terms of balance. Again, the quote unquote dirt raid. But yeah, no, I think Garrett Riley's going to ride what he has. I think right now a lot of the strength of this offense is the running game, especially Klubnik, the speed that he has and the ability to make plays in the option game. But yeah, as it comes along, it might, be able to threaten a little more through the pass. But question marks, you got a receiver. Question marks, you got a quarterback. I think the thing you really want to ride right now is that running game, and that's what they're doing as much as they can.
Defensively, the beat goes on. They overwhelmed, Florida Atlantic and Charleston Southern after that first half. The Duke game is probably misleading because of all the sort of, predicaments they were put in by the offense. I mean, we're finally seeing, I guess, maybe Xavier Thomas finally healthy, finally kind of able to live up to his potential. Just, I know the linebackers will go kind of maybe level by level here, but just starting up front, maybe not, Cleveland Farrell and Dexter Lawrence, but are they close to maybe being at that elite level that they'd kind of grown accustomed to during their run?
Yeah, it's more inside out, I would say. I mean, at defensive tackle, they're about as good as they've been with, Tyler Davis, Ruka Roro, Peter Woods is the star freshman, who I think bench presses like 475 pounds, just an incredibly physically developed freshman. And then they've got guys behind that too. So at defensive tackle up the middle, they're incredibly strong. It's at defensive end where, again, you bring up an Xavier Thomas, a Justin Maskell. Are they getting the insane pass rush that you'd like to see? I haven't quite seen that yet. One of the better defensive ends in terms of getting pressure and getting behind the line of scrimmage has actually been TJ Parker as a freshman, a highly touted guy out of Alabama. He's been a good player as well. But again, I would say the strength of the defensive lines at tackle, at end, we're still kind of waiting to see, if Xavier Thomas is really going to have that big game like he did last year. He had a couple of sacks in just 6 snaps at Boston College before he broke his foot again. He had I think he's had a sack or 2 here early, but again, against FCS or, lower level opponents. So it's kind of a wait and see at defensive end on the edge. And the edge will be really important against a team like Florida State. They can run the ball. Obviously, Travis is going to, try to get, away from you, and they're going to run some off tackle stuff, I'm sure, in the running game. So it's going to be an interesting matchup to see how Clemson fares there for sure.
I don't know how many teams are still running 4-3. It's still probably the, go-to defense for most folks out there, but probably not a better triplet there of linebacker play when it comes to, Woodaz and Jeremiah Trotter Jr. and Barrett Carter. So what have they been able to kind of create and produce? I mean, on this show, which you don't listen to, which, I won't subject you to that, John, but I just, I wonder, like, what does good linebacker play really result in the year 2023 with just how dynamic offenses are? But what do those three kind of mean to the Clemson defense right now, does it seem like?
Yeah, again, like you said, 4-3 is kind of old fashioned nowadays, and Woodaz, who plays that strong side, quote unquote nickel role. I mean, he'll rotate on and off the field. You'll sometimes see a DB in there, and it's actually been recently not Andrew Makuba, the junior, who's actually been out a couple games, but Khalil Barnes, who's a freshman, has made a ton of plays from that position. But when Woodaz is on the field, he's been dynamic too. He can play some weak side linebacker as well. He's got 2 picks already this year. One was a pick 6. He had another interception that he took back about 50 yards. He's a former high school safety. He's a great athlete. And again, you mentioned Barrett Carter and Jeremiah Trotter Jr. I think those names kind of speak for themselves in terms of the accolades they racked up last year and what they're capable of doing. I mean, just 2 incredibly athletic guys who obviously can rack up tackles in bunches in the run game. And Jeremiah Trotter Jr. had a pick 6 in the South Carolina game. Barrett Carter's hurdling guys when he's blitzing in the Louisville game. I mean, these are guys that are very capable of making big plays at linebacker. And yeah, with what they got in front of them at defensive tackle, they have the ability to run free. And so, again, it'll be interesting to see whether maybe somebody's going to be spying Jordan Travis, whether it's one of those 3 guys, and then also whether those defensive tackles kind of create openings for linebackers to get in the backfield to make some big plays, because they're certainly capable of doing it.
I mean, nothing against, Duke and Charleston Southern and FAU, but certainly I don't think Clemson's going to see, or has not seen, sort of the weaponry, just the absolute, physical kind of superiority of a wide receiver core the way that Florida State has, with Johnny Wilson being 6'7" and Keon Coleman being 6'4", and what Jaheim Bell can do. This secondary has always been sneaky, really solid for Clemson over the years. I know guys like Sheridan Jones and Nate Wiggins are kind of, pacing the play for the Clemson secondary. Just how confident do you think they are in being able to, maybe not so much match up man-to-man against this Florida State receiving core, but just being able to maybe contain and limit the big plays?
Right, exactly. I think the big plays is all they're trying to limit. They know, Florida State's going to get a few. I mean, Johnny Wilson's just way too tall to not catch a pass. Nate Wiggins is 6'2", and I think Sheridan Jones is 6 foot. So they have taller, longer corners, which helps a little bit. But Johnny Wilson's just a freak. I mean, in terms of the way he's built and how he can run, and Keon Coleman adds another veteran presence, like you said, wide receiver, a big physical guy. So it's going to be interesting because again, I'll go back to what you said. I mean, Charleston Southern, FAU. Clemson has absolutely not seen a receiving core like this. Duke was able to make some plays. Riley Leonard was with his receiving core as well. Some smaller, quicker guys, so it's a little bit of a different matchup. But, it's going to be a huge test for this secondary. And they're more mature. They're better than they were last year. I mean, they had a ton of injuries last year, a ton of younger players rotating in and out, had some busts. I think they're in a better position this year. But again, it's going to be whether you can get rush on Travis, where you can make him uncomfortable, keep him contained, and then contest and box out as much as you can when you're going up against a guy like Wilson. But they're going to win some, and you got to hope they don't win a whole lot. I think it's kind of the best case scenario.
Feel free to make a prediction, John, but just kind of wondering how you see this game playing out, because again, if this game was played last week, I probably would say the Florida State's going to win comfortably, like maybe even 2 scores comfortably. But after the way they played against Boston College and the seeming sort of confidence that Clemson has built up, I'm maybe a little bit more hesitant. But like, have these 2 performances, mainly I guess the FAU game, because the Charleston Southern game was such a slog for one half. I know there's still questions out there, but those questions, is it more so things that Clemson hasn't done that they need to be able to do against Florida State, or is it stuff that they're capable of doing that you've seen them do in the past and just being consistently able to do that in a game of this magnitude?
Yeah, I think it's the latter. I think it's that, again, we saw some really good things in an FAU game, saw some good things in the Charleston Southern game too, but it's not Florida State. And you have a first-year full-time starter in Cade Klubnik. You have a rotation right now at left tackle, which, again, you're talking about edge rushers like Jared Verse. I mean, you're going to be able to protect the quarterback who's in his first full year. And, defensively, you haven't seen an offense like this. And Jordan Travis has given you issues in the past in terms of his ability to scramble and bust off big plays. So If I don't have to make a prediction, I don't want to.
Come on, John, do it. Do it for the people.
But I mean, I would probably favor Florida State right now, just because I just think, again, number 4 team in the nation. Clemson's still got things to prove. I mean, I'd say maybe like 27-24 would be the prediction. But obviously, again, I hate doing it because I know I'll be wrong. But it's I think Florida State's the favorite for a good reason right now. But Clemson, if they play their best, is certainly capable of winning the game.
Jon Blau from the Post and Courier. Follow him on the old Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. John without the H. Who needs the H? _ Blau, BLAU. John, thanks for the time, man. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
MyBookie.ag. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere. Use the promo code WARCHANT when you sign up. You'll get an instant cash deposit bonus, which means you have more to play with than what you showed up with. That's pretty cool, right? I guess it's pretty cool that Jordan Travis's odds are now plus 900 to win the Heisman. It was like plus 1150 before the Boston College game. So apparently if they're not scared by the Boston College game and they've improved Jordan's odds, then maybe we shouldn't be either, right? Only Quinn Ewers, who's actually also plus 900. Michael Penix Jr. and Caleb Williams, the only two ahead of Jordan right now. And it's going to be tough for Caleb to repeat, right? And then he's going to play Michael Penix, and Penix might win. But then Penix has got to play Oregon. It's all going to work out in the wash. Jordan's still a good value. Check it out over at mybookie.ag. You can bet anything, anytime, anywhere. Just use that promo code WARCHANT when you sign up for the first time to enjoy your instant cash deposit bonus. Thanks to John. Some good stuff in there. Of course, I wanted to bring it back to Florida State real quick. We did get to speak to Jared Verse after practice on Tuesday. I thought he had some really revealing comments when it came to being asked about maybe not producing at the level he was expecting, and he was pretty forthright about it. Admitted that he was a little bit concerned. Listen, it's a money year for him. We all know what's going on here and what's in the back of his mind, maybe in the front of his mind at times. But he said that coming out of the USM game, he was really frustrated. But he spoke to Coach Norvell after that game. He said it changed his life. So I feel really good about Jared, where he's at, where he can be, and what he's going to have to do against Clemson. And maybe he's one of those guys that I think right now, Corey, no one's been in this situation before. All these guys have come from disparate sort of situations at previous schools and might be true freshmen, redshirt freshmen, things like that. Like, who's going to be the calming force or like that rowdy guy that's going to go make a big play early on to set the tempo for this team? Man, Jordan Travis has his way of leading. Man, it would be really nice to see Jared Verse, help out maybe on a 3-and-out and push Clemson back maybe 5-6 yards on a TFL or a sack. You need to make those kind of plays in this kind of game. Jared, maybe it's time for him to make those flash plays that we're expecting out of him. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, the whole saying about big-time players, right? And he's made some plays. He almost had a fumble. What did he hit? Did he force an interception against LSU? I don't remember or did James Daniels just throw it?
No, it was. Oh, I thought you were talking about USM.
USM he did.
Yeah.
And then I think on this one, the one on Saturday, I think he was in that kid's face when he threw it. And then obviously he almost had the strip sack against LSU by a millisecond. He didn't get there. But look, man, I think that I agree. I think he's played well. If you look at the PFF, and I know those aren't the Holy Grail, but I think it bears out that he's played well. He is getting double teamed a lot. He's getting chipped by tight ends and running backs a lot, something he didn't have to deal with a whole lot last year. But he's I like the way he's played. He's been really competitive isn't the word I'm looking for, but relentless. There you go. That's the word I'm looking for. I've loved the way he played. I like the way he played against Boston College. I didn't like that he stood up so much, but I think that's the way they were rushing because that kid was such a unique presence in the pocket. But I foresee him having a nice game in this one. I think Clemson will probably think maybe they can block him one-on-one. Certainly his numbers don't scare him. So maybe they leave their left tackle more on an island. And our right tackle, wherever Verse lines up, usually it's against the left tackle. And we'll see how that works out. But it's time for him to start really impacting games. When he was talking about playing at Clemson, you could see how excited he was.
Yeah.
Like, again, man, he's had some cool moments, but coming from Albany, being a 0-star recruit out of high school, and then coming from Albany, and now he's a potential first-round pick, a probable first-round pick, playing on the number 3 team in the country, going to be in Death Valley on Saturday. Like you could tell how much he's looking forward to it. And I think that's a really cool thing about this team is they are old, they are experienced, but how many of them have been in a situation like this?
Yeah.
Jordan has. Jordan's lived it, which is who you want. You want a quarterback that's been in that environment. He played was Clemson good in 21? They had a really good defense in 21. I remember that. They still had Venables.
Right. Yeah.
And he was 3 minutes from winning that game. He didn't play well in that game. He was thrown to Andrew Parchment. He didn't play well, but he still threw for 2 touchdowns, and they had the lead with 3 minutes to go. He did enough. The defense kind of let him down at the end. But anyway, he was still the best quarterback on the field that day in that environment. So the environment won't bother him. He's been in this. But you think about Byers and Roddick and Verse, even Finchell Cypress, man, Fisk.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a good one too. But even like Cypress. He's played I assume he's played at Death Valley before, but he's at Virginia, man. Those Clemson fans show up because they're good fans, but that's not the atmosphere. The Virginia Clemson atmosphere isn't anywhere close to what it's going to be on Saturday. So all these guys are kind of experiencing this for the first time, and I think just talking to Jared, I think they're kind of giddy about it. Like literally excited about it. Not scared, not nervous, but excited about the opportunity to play in an environment like that as the number 3 team in the country. With the whole nation watching because all the good games are after them. So I do think there's going to be a huge amount of people in the country. It's the marquee game of the noon window, and it's going to be a really neat opportunity for them. Keon Coleman. Yeah. He played at Michigan State, so he's played Ohio State and Michigan. I get it. But I don't think those games were close. I don't think anybody expected Michigan State to win. Like it's a new situation for him, and I'm just really excited to see how these guys all play because I think I think you'd rather get your dud and your stinker out of the way the week before, and they did. But the one caveat, right, is that, and we talked about this a little bit, but maybe not enough, is this offense, when it was up 31-10 and they got the ball back at midfield, everybody on that sideline, maybe everybody watching on TV, thought this was the best offense in the United States. I think everybody on that sideline thought they were the best offense in the United States. I think they thought they were about to go score 50 again. So, and confidence is awesome. But now after 4 drives and spiraling like they did and not really answering the challenge at all, when the defense needed them to respond, take some time off the clock, get some first downs, get some points and ice the game, and they couldn't do it, does the confidence take a hit? That's what you worry about. Because I don't think it will, because they are so experienced and Jordan's played so much football. I don't think the confidence will take a hit. But what if they go 3 and out on their first drive on Saturday? Do all of a sudden they start doubting themselves? Because that's where it could go. That's where the Boston College game could have the negative impact. I don't think it will, but that is a possibility that we need to, at least entertain. Is that when you play poorly for 4 straight drives, when you think you're the best team in the country, yes, it's a good wake up call, it's a good lesson, but you don't want it to just rob you of confidence and belief.
Yeah. Don't
think it will. Because there ain't a lot of teams that have Johnny Wilson and Keon Coleman and Trey Benson and Jaheim Bell and Jordan Travis in an offensive line that's older than the Cowboys' offensive line. But, we'll see, right? We'll see how they respond the first time they have to punt. Or if they have to punt 2 times in a row, can they get it back going and get on a roll and take over a game like they have so far in every game they played?
Yeah. I mean, I think there's going to be lead changes in this game, but, man, just – what it would do for Florida State to execute one of their, vintage scripted drives and then to knock Clemson back a few yards on their opening drive. Not saying like they're going to run away with it, but golly, that would just be obviously the ideal start, and I think exactly what they need so that doubt doesn't creep in. And it's probably me projecting. I do wonder, again, man, who is that guy that's going to be able to – who are they looking at right now? Because man, Jordan leads, but like not in this kind of rah-rah, grab your face mask, we're not losing this game, I'm not letting us lose this game kind of way. And, maybe this is one of those games where you need that kind of guy. That's why I think Verse could be that guy. Maybe the defense is able to create negative plays to help the offense out. But, Jaheim's been there. Jaheim's got part of that, title is in his name.
That's right. He won there last year.
Yeah. So
that's right.
Knocked him off that perch, so he can tell him about what it takes to win in that.
Did you remember Clemson was like number 4 in the country when that game was played? They were like 10-1.
Jeez.
Do you remember that?
What was their other loss?
They lost to not Florida State. Who'd they lose to? I don't remember who they lost to last year, but they had a loss. But they were still in the playoff conversation, and then they lost at home to South Carolina, and that ended that. And then DJ transferred, and Klubnik took over.
Yeah. I'm going to find it right here. Everyone's yelling at us. How do you guys not know you cover Florida State? Notre Dame, 35-14. Wow.
I don't remember that at all.
Yeah, it happened, apparently.
All right. I believe you. I just don't remember anything about that game.
Yeah, it was 2 games after Florida State. Man, Syracuse was 14th when they played them.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm not buying Syracuse. But I get it. It's a challenge, possibly, maybe, probably not. But anyhow. And then, they lost to South Carolina 31-30. So,
yep.
All right, that's a wrap for us then. Let's go back.
We're done.
Yeah, anything else you wanted to talk about?
What did I want to say? Oh, I thought, not that anybody really cares, I thought Rodemaker looked good.
Okay.
On Tuesday, if we want to go back to practice a little bit. I thought that was good to see. He threw some ropes. Johnny caught everything and looked good doing it. And it's weird about Johnny, man. Why do you think he's always so open? I know I feel like I ask this all the time, but it's not like he just gets open because he's tall. They're not, when we watch them in practice, you know what I mean? Like he's always a couple of yards clear of whoever's trying to cover him. Or like he's in the middle of the field open.
Yeah. They play off of him, I'm guessing, and they probably, they're not all that physical and jamming guys in practice. So maybe
but
that's part
I don't think they can jam him anyway because he's too long and he pushes them aside. But he gets open on all different kinds of routes. He's not a one-route pony. I don't think he caught one fade, like one sideline pass in that game against Boston College. He still had 100 yards. He catches all types of balls, and we know he does other things. He drops all kinds too. I get it, but he is so unique with that skill, with that body size, to be able to get open. Not just, hey, I can catch it because I'm bigger than you and you can't get around me, but actually shake guys that are 6 foot and get free. Even though he's not the fastest guy by any means, he always gets 2 steps on a guy. Always.
Seemingly,
it's just weird.
Yeah.
Good for him. That's why he could be, if he can take care of the catching part of it, he should be in the league for a long, long time because he's a unique guy. Clemson doesn't have an answer for him because nobody does. It's just a matter of if he's going to play well. But again, I think he will. I think the team will. I thought the offense looked fine. Keon had a long catch in one-on-ones over Greedy Vance, like a 50-yarder. Well, it would have been an 80-yarder, actually. He was free for a touchdown. That was good to see. And then just moving forward, Ira asked Norvell about it, but I would like them to see, I guess their slot, when we ask about the slot receivers, because I think Destin Hill's got 1 catch. I think Winston Wright's got 1 or 2 catches. Like, they're not getting a lot from their slot guys.
Yeah.
But then Jaheim Bell is a slot guy.
Yep.
He counts.
Morlock.
And Jaheim Bell's got 3 touchdowns and really should have 4. I still can't believe they took that touchdown off the board. They didn't even take it off the board. And that referee's a coward. Like, rule it a touchdown because you know it's going to be reviewed anyway.
Good point.
And it was an all-time great athletic move to have his legs off the ground as he's extending it over the goal line. Not only did he rob Jaheim of a touchdown, he robbed Jordan Travis of a touchdown.
It cost him the Heisman. It could cost him the Heisman.
Probably cost him the Heisman right there.
Unbelievable.
And I wanted to say, I don't think I said this yesterday. Maybe I did. Because somebody on Headlines asked something about what's to explain Jordan Travis's lackluster start. And I took a lot of exception to the word lackluster.
I feel like I can feel it.
I mean, he's been, look, I know he's raised the level of expectation, but when you're scoring 17 of 20 times, your quarterback's doing all right. Like the last 4, I get it. Did not play well. And the one play that we all keep coming back into is the throw to Johnny on third down when he had Toafili in front of him. I think against Clemson, he will take more of what's open. I think he will look and scan and see the field and just take what's open more than forcing it to Johnny on a 3rd and 3 in a spot like that. But Jordan Travis has played exceptionally well, especially compared to, like, I don't know, 2021 Jordan Travis, Alex Hornibrook, other quarterbacks around the country, not named who? Shador, Penix, and Caleb Williams. Like, he's been better than Drake May.
Bo Nix, yeah.
And so I just, like, we have high expectations for him, and you can't be a victim of that. But I think Jordan Travis has played well. And he was awesome in the second half against LSU. And even he made a couple of ridiculous throws in the first half against LSU. But after that, he was awesome. And against Southern Miss, it was Southern Miss, man. He didn't play that well. The receivers didn't make any catches for him, and they won by 53 points. And then in the first 6 drives against Boston College, they scored 5 times, 4 touchdowns, 2 of them with him having been left the game with an injury. And he still came back and led touchdown drives. So the point being, if Jordan Travis plays just like he's been playing.
Lackluster.
Right. His lackluster is better than the kid he's playing on Saturday. And his lackluster is all conference. It's not going to win him a Heisman, but he's going to have chances. This is a great showcase game for him. He's going to have Miami later in the year, which I think has the chance to be a pretty big-time matchup. He's got Syracuse maybe is a big time. I know it's Syracuse. Roll your eyes. Fine, whatever. They might be undefeated. Duke is probably – well, Duke's got Notre Dame this week. Duke could be ranked when you play them. You got who knows what. Florida might be good at the end of the year. He's got opportunities. My point being, with games at Clemson, at Death Valley, and at the Swamp, and then games at home against capable teams, which people will be watching, he's got a chance to stay and really get into this Heisman race. Like you said, his odds have gone up or down, however we do it. He was
right.
Plus 1,100. Now he's plus 900. I think part of that is because Travis Hunter isn't winning the Heisman now. By the way, I think I agree with all of us that Colorado State kid should be shot.
Whoa.
It was a joke. But by the way, the death threat, like I thought it was funny that people came out and said how classy Dion was talking about not giving death threats to that kid. And if you guys haven't been paying attention, the Colorado State safety that knocked Travis Hunter out of the game, apparently he's been getting death threats. And everybody talked about how classy Dion was for admonishing fans for giving the kid death threats. And I'm like, well, yeah, but I think most coaches would be against that. I think most coaches would be like, yeah, let's not do that. But Dion said some really nice things about the kid and said he's a really good football player.
He is. That's the thing. The kid is a good football player, but he's only going to be remembered by that,
Well, yes. And it didn't help that Travis Hunter on his YouTube channel said that Colorado State was the dirtiest team in college football.
I mean, how many persons?
You can't argue with it, Travis. I'm not saying you're wrong. But anyway, and I really do hope Travis Hunter's okay because he is fun to watch. I know maybe not for Florida State fans because you can envision we all remember what happened. But man, he is incredible. But Jordan Travis is a very, very good college football player, and this is such a uniquely cool opportunity for him on Saturday to go up there, play well, win a game that nobody's won up there since Jameis for Florida State. I mean, and he'll be right, and he has more opportunities to stay in the Heisman race and edge up towards the top of the Heisman race than I thought he did after the LSU game. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because the LSU game, it's like people have forgotten it. He was awesome in that game. He's the best player on the field. Well, Keon was good too, but he was really good in that game. He was better than Jaden Daniels. And now Jaden Daniels, because of one game at Mississippi State, people think he's the best quarterback or one of the best quarterbacks in the country, which he is. But so is Florida State's guy, and he's been very good. Maybe he's been pedestrian by his own standards, but that is still very, very good. And, Southern Miss, I know he wasn't great, but he still had those 2 ridiculous highlight plays that when he's running backwards for 30 yards and then converting 4th downs. That's not normal.
Right.
Those are Heisman-type plays. And hopefully he can make a few more on Saturday because, as you guys all know, I believe in the kid. I hope he's 100% healthy. He looked it on Tuesday, but, again, he's not being tackled. So we'll see. But I thought he looked just normal. I mean, I thought he looked fine, looked normal on Tuesday, and I like the kid. I like the kid. I don't know where I was going with that, but I talked. Now we're done.
All right. Mailbag show, Renegade Express, known in some corners. Got to be a member, though. Go sign up if you're never been a member. You can do it and save 50%. Big weekend, big game weekend promo. Just go to the website, sign up for it.
Sign up. It's a great deal. And the one last thing, Aslan, because I just remember what I was going to say. They came out with the ratings for this weekend. Colorado State blew it out of the water. Unbelievably. Must have had the highest ratings. I think it was the highest ratings an ESPN game has ever had, a regular season game, which is incredible for a 10 p.m. start. But fifth this week in ratings was Florida State Boston College noon, which, again, I just want to say that kind of shows you. And for comparison, NC State played VMI, and according to these ratings.
Well, Mississippi State LSU, how about you compare that one?
Well, but NC State had 280,000 people watching their game against VMI. Wow. Florida State played Boston College and had 3.8 million, which was more than LSU Mississippi State, which was on at the exact same time. So, again, Florida State is a brand. People care about it. And also, the bigger point being, there's going to be a lot of people watching these Jordan Travis games from here on out. If he plays well at Death Valley and they can win, he's right where he needs to be in the Heisman race because he can't win. You're not winning the Heisman in September, but you can lose it. And if he plays well up there, win or lose, if they lose 35-34 and he plays awesome, then what are you going to do? But, I would be surprised if he didn't play well. Wouldn't you?
I would. We'll find out soon enough. Saturday noon, Death Valley. All the stuff I said 30 seconds ago still applies.
Sorry.
Jeff Cameron Show, 1 to 3 o'clock, coming up on Warchant TV. Have a great one, everybody. Thanks for listening to Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill.